Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating concept from Thomas Alethea's book, 12 Steps to a Good Life. We are going to look closely at the sneaky and honestly kind of wild ways we unconsciously sabotage our own mental well-being just by the way we talk to ourselves. So let's jump right in. Okay, I want you to start by asking yourself a pretty simple but totally profound question. How often do you should on yourself? Seriously, think about your inner dialogue for a second. If you're anything like the rest of us, you probably know that everyday pain of just feeling crushed by constant self-imposed expectations. It's that nagging little voice constantly whispering, I should be working harder right now, or, I should have done that perfectly. The source material actually hits the nail right on the head with this amazing quote, shoulda, woulda, coulda, language that keeps you stuck, right? The actual villain of this explainer isn't some outside force holding you back. It's literally our own vocabulary. We trap ourselves in these tiny, rigid boxes built entirely out of our own words. And what's the actual lineup of this toxic vocabulary? It's words like should, must, have to, ought, and need to. Society pushes this myth that being super tough on yourself with these specific words is somehow the golden ticket to success and discipline. But the author reveals that instead of driving us forward, they actually cause unnecessary inner conflict and deep feelings of failure. They throw this massive burden on us without actually accomplishing anything productive. No way, right? Section 1. Anatomy of a Distortion. How Words Demand Perfection. The science behind our self-talk is absolutely fascinating. Shooting on yourself isn't just a quirky, bad habit you can casually brush off. It's a documented cognitive distortion. Now, cognitive distortions are specific, irrational thought patterns that actively contribute to negative emotions and take a real toll on our mental health. So we're grounding this explainer right here in clear psychological science. These words literally warp our perception of reality. So the crucial point here is how these words actually function in our minds. They act as rigid, open-ended obligations that absolutely do not allow for human error. They demand perfection in a world that is, frankly, inherently imperfect. Think about it. When you tell yourself you must or ought to do something, you're setting an impossible, unforgiving standard. It just leaves you feeling like you're constantly falling short, no matter how hard you try. Section 2. The Illusion of Control, Walled Against Chaos. We often try to build a wall against the messy chaos of real life by micromanaging our days with rigid shoulds and have-tos. And we do this because of a primal fear of the unknown. We want control. But the alternative? It's the absolute freedom found in simply accepting that life is inherently unpredictable. The only real certainty in life is change, and we have a daily choice. Accept that reality or deny it with our toxic vocabulary. The text introduces a really beautiful philosophical antidote to this, wabi-sabi. It's a Japanese concept centered on appreciating beauty that is imperfect, impermanent, and incomplete. So instead of demanding flawless perfection through shoulds, wabi-sabi encourages us to see the perfection in the imperfection. It helps us find the courage to start and stick with difficult tasks without that paralyzing weight of flawless execution hanging over our heads. Section 3. The ABCs of Inner Conflict. Tracking the trigger. Now let's look at the ABC model. It's a classic cognitive behavioral tool detailed in the book. Step A is the activating event. Basically, something happens in the real world. Let's say you get a short, super vague text from a friend who usually sends long, cheerful messages. Okay, step B is the belief. Your mind instantly forms an interpretation. You might default to those toxic words and think, oh no, I must have done something wrong, they shouldn't treat me this way. And then step C is the consequence, how you actually feel and act. Because of that rigid belief in step B, you feel hurt, you avoid replying, and you literally spend the rest of the day isolating yourself. But here is the massive light bulb moment. Most people completely skip over the belief step. We automatically blame the event, step A, for our bad feelings in step C. We completely ignore the toxic should beliefs that are actually driving the negative reaction. We think the external event caused our pain, but actually, scratch that. It's really the story we told ourselves about it behind the scenes. So, how do we catch those hidden beliefs before they totally ruin our day? Well, the author offers this incredibly catchy little rhyme. When you feel bad, put your thoughts on the pad. Journaling is presented as an absolutely vital daily habit. By tracking your thoughts throughout the day, you can catch those automatic, distorted beliefs in real time. You're literally putting them under a microscope on paper to see exactly how they're manipulating you. There's also this great technique from the text called inversion. When you catch a strong negative thought about someone else, you flip it around. If your thought is, you are holding me back, invert it to, I am holding myself back. Or if you're thinking, you never listen to me, flip it to, I never listen to you. Now, this isn't about unfairly taking the blame for everything. It's just a really powerful tool for ownership and self-awareness. It forces us to examine our thoughts for any grain of truth and completely strips the cognitive distortion of its power. Section 4. Reframing your reality. The power of preferences. Rigid, anxiety-inducing vocabulary like I have to just feels heavy. It feels forced and incredibly restrictive. But shifting to empowering vocabulary like I choose to, that internally shifts the entire balance of power. You move away from external obligation and step right into internal, personal agency. It's a real game changer. So the absolutely crucial takeaway is this: we must actively downgrade our strict necessities into preferences. We need to swap out those rigid demands for flexible words like desire or want. Instead of telling yourself, I need to get this done, try saying, I prefer to finish this. Even treat approval from others as a preference rather than an absolute necessity. When you maintain your high standards but let go of the rigid demands about how you or the world must be, you allow yourself to be motivated by authentic, internal desire rather than fear or punishing obligation. Which brings us to the core message from the text, captured perfectly in this wonderfully memorable catchphrase, don't should on yourself. It's a great reminder that true commitment and real productivity, they don't come from endless self-punishment and harsh words. They come from character, from aligning with our true values, and above all, from practicing self-compassion. So, I want to leave you with a challenge. What should will you replace with a want today? Think of just one thing you've been harshly demanding of yourself and actively reframe it into a choice or a preference right now. Just notice how that changes your entire perspective. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, treat your inner dialogue with the kindness and flexibility it deserves.